All right, this is Tyus
And Tyus.
with Sublime UX. Today we're looking at another nonprofit website called Just Communities. Just Communities has a really great mission in that they're trying to increase voter activity and trying to get people to really be involved more with democracy. I think it's a great mission to have. Right, we need as many people who want to be involved in democracy to be involved in it. So I think it's great. So but their site needs to be improved, and that's what we do. So that's what we're kind of look at. All right, so we'll start with the obvious. This nav bar is way too large. It takes up about 1/4, maybe 1/5 of the screen. It's too much. I would suggest taking the icon, shifting it over to the side, moving the just communities verb words over on this side, and then shifting all these up. That way we could shrink it, because again, nav bar shouldn't be more than 150, 75 to 150 pixels tall only, and this one is way more than that. For most websites that are nonprofits, you can do usually a traditional website,
Mhm.
or you can do a storytelling website. And so what's the difference for those who don't know? If you're doing a traditional website, that means you basically have, a nice hero section, your main selling proposition, your call to action, your secondary call to action, and then it basically walks you through the basics of why something is good or why you need something. So in other words, you should buy this vacuum cleaner, you should buy this book, you should roll in this course, and then they outline through the stepping through the website on why this whatever they're selling or whatever they're doing is a good thing. There's plenty of nonprofit sites that are just like that. So that is one example. Then, of course, you have storytelling websites, which are a little bit different. Tys, what's the difference with a storytelling website?
So, one, storytelling websites play against your standard expectations when it comes to websites. Storytelling, like I said, breaks from conventions to try to get you engaged, but it also means you're probably thinking more. And if it's not visually engaging enough, you're probably just going to leave the site. Standard websites are safer, and they're what people are already expecting, but also if they're whatever they're selling or their message isn't strong enough, people won't get engaged at all. So those are the differences between them.
Yeah. Storytelling websites, they're high risk, high reward. If they do it well, they're amazing, and people almost feel like they can't help but get engaged with the website. They can't help but click. They can't help but reach out to somebody. You know what I mean? Because we're playing on emotions usually when it comes to storytelling. And again, if done well, they are absolutely amazing. And the reason we bring that up, because usually in a traditional website, again, you're going to have a header, a subheader, a call to action, and then a typical walkthrough. This site, unfortunately, doesn't really do either one. It's not it doesn't seem like a traditional website, and yet it also is not a storytelling website.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably simply because at one point it probably was one way, and then over years and over time, people generally start to bolt onto websites. So in other words, somebody says, "Oh, hey, this is good, but you know, we just did this new thing. Can you throw that on a website?" And it's not just on any page, it's got to be on the front page of the website. And over time, the message gets lost and the message gets convoluted. So that may have what's happened with this site. It happens to every site over a certain amount of time. Let's look at this site. So again, we have bold reimagining how communities grow. This is pretty good as far as a headline goes. The sub headline is, to me, is not as strong. Just communities helping neighbors and practitioners worldwide create more just, liberatory, and green communities. Now, again, part of the problem I have with this is like practitioners. Practitioners of what? And again, the image isn't necessarily helping for me to know exactly what we're talking about. Now, again, we can make some assumptions to talk about, a more just community or a green community. We're assuming this is about grown communities. But again, having words like practitioner in here, where the people who wrote it probably knew what they meant. But if you're new to the site, you probably have no idea what they're talking
Mm-hmm.
about. So there's no reason to talk about practitioners here. There's also no call to action. No obvious call to action, I should say. Usually a call to action is in your hero section. Or in other words, in the part of your website that is above the fold before anybody has to scroll. I don't know what you want me to do on this website. And since 50% of your people never go past your hero section, You have to tell them right away who you are, what you do, and give a strong call to action if it's not a storytelling website. So let's scroll down. All right, so we get here, just communities. Okay, so again, transform movement connects visionary leaders, innovative projects. Okay, this I actually like a little bit more. I think that this probably could be the this section in here. That because we're not going into practitioners, we you know, this is more explaining who you are and what you do. At least in my opinion. What do you think, Tyus?
I agree with this. It gives you a thing about the just communities, which is I think the most important, especially for nonprofits. Um, it is a bit wordy. Not only is it a bit wordy, we don't get like regenerative and urban and community development solutions. I would like a bit more specifics on what that means. But for us, for like I said, for a subheadline, it's way better than the one they already have. So I prefer this one. But more importantly to me is the principles and values section that they have here. This header or the subheadline telling you about the principles and values don't actually tell you about their principles and values. It tells you about just communities. Um, if you're gonna have sections like this, they should be connected. So if this was a, if a learn more about our principles and values section, it would be just communities tells you about their what X they believe in. Maybe like I said, regenerative and urban development solutions. What does that mean? Um, do they have to be certain levels eco-friendly? Is equity there like important to them? Then you have the actual learn more about principles and values if you want to learn more, but they don't tease it properly in this section.
Yeah, and the other thing, because this is the first button, it's not really a strong call to action.
Mm-hmm.
The call to action is the primary action you want the user to your site to take. I highly doubt the number one action they want these people to take is to learn more about their principles and their values.
Mm-hmm.
For most nonprofits, it's donate or get involved in some way. Whatever
Mm-hmm.
it is that they do, get involved in it or donate so that we can continue to do what we do. So to have this as your first button really takes away from the message of your site, and again, it really leads you off and not in a very strong way. All right. So then we have this about their video, their latest video. And again, that's fine. I probably wouldn't put it here. If you want to have something about the latest video, maybe this should be a secondary call to action, which is like, watch our latest live stream. And then they could go find out more information about it. And if you want to have that, you could always push this further down. But you haven't told me enough to make me want to read, to make me want to watch a video yet, because you haven't sold me up here to make me actually want to go watch a video. A video tends to be a commitment of time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go watch a half-hour video and I don't know if I really care enough about this organization yet. So you really don't want to do that, in my opinion. All right, so then we get down here. This is where we get into what I think the site is actually about. Just Communities Accredited Practitioner Foundational Course. This site seems like the main thing it does is equip people to get involved in the democracy of their city, county, city, state, whatever. So they have a course that I'm assuming helps teach people how to get involved, and probably also, as a byproduct, connects people of like minds so that they can work together for things. So if the main thing that this site is actually supposed to do is to sell a course, we need to have a little bit some of this information or a stronger part of this information up into the hero section. And the course should probably be the call to action. Either find out more about the course, and I hate find out because find out's not a strong call to action. You know, read more about our course, connect with somebody about our course, enroll in our course, any of those type of things. But this probably should be in the hero section. Why I'm saying it's probably the primary focus of this site is because you have it here about the course. Then if you scroll down, then you have this thing about the protocol, which is their framework, which again I'm assuming is, you know, their SOPs, how they operate or how they teach people on how to get involved, and then more about the course itself. So you have three sections right in a row, all about basically all about a course, and maybe it's
and
more than one course,
and then
courses.
the the toolbar they have the protocol
Oh yeah,
and the accredited thing
yeah,
also. So that
exactly. Yeah, that I
so
won't even get into that right now. That's we don't have time for that. But so you probably should really refocus on your delivery of your messaging as far as what this is. Analogy I like to use in this regards, the protocol is probably the method. The course or whatever is how it's carried out. So in other words, you want to learn how to fight, you know, learn boxing,
Mhm.
right? So it's kind of like the protocol is connected to the course. But again, by having almost like this split of two different paths, it makes it feel like they're two different things. And I don't think they actually are.
Mhm.
One is connected to the other. So to have this duality right here where they split and it almost goes to these two paths is confusing messaging.
Mhm.
All right. So then we have a
Newsletter.
blog post, newsletter. That's fine. All this is fine. I probably would shift this underneath, but that's nitpicky. And then a footer. All right. So overall, this is not a bad site. Again, I just think over time the messaging got lost. So we're probably not probably we're gonna do before and after.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're gonna do before and after. We may do two different sites. What this would look like as a standard site and what this would look like as a storytelling site. Because you can go either way. It might be a good way to kind of look at both and then be like, okay, which one do we really want? Because if you're dealing with a real client, you probably want to give them some choice, especially if it's something like a nonprofit. How you get people involved in a nonprofit is to sell the story, sell the emotion of it. If it's a standard website, people can often take it or leave it. We have to elicit emotion in order to get people involved or to get people to donate. So again, this is Ties and Ties. Quick review of the site that was not so quick. And we'll talk to you later. Peace.
Peace.